Mr. Panton, how are you, sir?
Hey Ben, what's up? You good?
I'm representing tonight.
Yeah? Nice man, nice.
Panton Racing. Remember when I wore this for the World Championships, remember?
In Texas.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good
Pissed some
stuff.
people off too.
I had my fingers crossed that it was still going to fit. How's things over there?
Good, we're surviving. Keeping safe.
What's the story? I know you've got no shooting, but what else is going on? What's the do you have any light at the end of the tunnel yet?
Well, for motorsports we do. Barbados seems to be reopening, and we should be, the event that was scheduled for May looks like they're gonna carry over to
it's amazing, like we're all doom and gloom, and then it's sort of picking up pace over here. The only problem I foresee is that I just hope we're not picking up pace too quickly and we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I think most countries are getting ahead of themselves for the sake of the economies.
Yeah,
I think they're putting that now before health. So it's it is a fine balance. So
the problem being, I think we can wait for you can't fix this without a cure. We don't have a cure,
right?
So it's never going away. We'll be locked down for years until they find a cure.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fine line. So, okay, the audience is rolling in. So for the people that don't know, this is a great friend of mine, Jeffrey Panton. Jeffrey's from Jamaica. He's a rally champion. He races. He's actually just been in the UK to collect a new car and race over here. He's also an avid clay pigeon shooter. Jeffrey, I don't know if you've seen any of these yet, but I ask the questions. There's lots of questions come from the audience. And as I've been writing the questions down, I've got to admit it's probably one of the most biggest lists I've ever wrote.
Oh, shit.
So what we're going to try and do is touch on your shooting career, get deep into your rally career, and then just
my shooting career is dismal.
And then just see if we can find any similarities or find anything that you do in your... So last night we had an airline pilot on.
Mm-hmm.
And even I was taking notes, like I was thinking, you know what, that can work. I can transform that across into shooting. So 2 easy questions for you. Let's to get things rolling. How old were you when you started rallying?
14.
So you've been doing that a long time.
No, I'm quite young, so it hasn't been that long. A long time.
And when did you start shooting?
I started shooting from about 12, but that was mainly hunting. Yeah, birdbush, yeah. We have birdbush in Jamaica, what we call birdbush in Jamaica, yeah.
Okay, so let's just give people a little bit of the background. We're going to start with the rallying. That's where we're going to go first. So questions are rolling in already. What car do you race?
Right now I have a new car, which is in the UK, scheduled to sail to Barbados. It's a Ford Fiesta WRC.
And before that, well, we're going to get into that later on. We're going to spend a bit of time on that later. Right, so... No, we can't do it that way. We're going to have to touch on it first. We're going to go to the crash. We're going to go to the crash first.
Okay, great.
There's no point asking you about other stuff if I don't cover the crash. So
yeah.
for the people that don't know, I did tell people to have a look the other day. Last year, you suffered a horrific crash.
Yes, very bad.
I think from my research today, the car registered on the stop 11 Gs. Is that right?
Somewhere around there, yes. It was there was a device in the car that measures G-force on impact, as well as records speed, time, that sort of stuff. And at the point of impact, it was 187 kilometers per hour, and about 11 Gs of impact. Yeah.
So you went from 187 kilometers to stop.
To stop.
there was no gradual increase.
No, I mean the stop was, when I say stop, I would say maybe 100 feet at the most.
Yeah,
which is not allowed at that speed.
No. Obviously, I was informed immediately by the guys in Jamaica, and you. I mean, everybody from the pictures. I mean, you look at you now, and when I shot with you the other month, you look at you now, and you can't believe it because the car was destroyed. There was parts of the car meters and meters and meters away from the shell.
Yeah, it was. You know, any impact at that speed is severe, but especially one that goes, as I said, less than 100 feet of distance before the car comes to a stop. You know that the impact is very serious, and it just completely ripped the car in two. And there, as you said, there were pieces everywhere. I remember the initial impact where we bounced the side of the road first, and after that I have no recollection until they were actually cutting me out of the car. So I was out for a good while before the emergency crews got to us and that sort of stuff. I guess from concussion.
What injuries did you suffer, Jeffrey? It was like 14 fractures, wasn't it?
14 fractures, yeah. 14 fractures and a punctured lung.
I mean, that's serious, isn't it? So
9 cracked ribs, both clavicles, shoulder bone, one in the hip, all over.
And I know this sounds like a stupid thing, but it's probably a good thing that you don't remember.
Last year.
I mean, having no recollection of it is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing because I don't have that fear from it. I don't have that apprehension so far. I mean, I waited till I was fully recovered. I got back in a car for the first time in February in the UK. And, I was a little tentative for the first couple of stages. But after that, I felt, back in a groove. Everything was fine. And the times were very competitive with the rest of the class I was racing against. And one of the guys I was racing against was, or two of the guys that I was competing against are guys that come to Barbados and compete against me. So it was easy to gauge, what level I was at, seeing the times in that event, and it was very promising. So I didn't have any fears going into the event or during the event. So that was a good thing.
How was your navigator, co-pilot? How was he after the accident?
Oh, he was great. He was drinking a rum outside the car. Normally in a rally car, they joke that the driver puts when he sees, an accident coming, he puts the navigator or the co-driver side of the car towards the accident. And unfortunately, in this case, it was everything was on my side of the car. I mean, his side was completely untouched.
So one of my next questions, that's why I had to diverse my questions there. That my next question was, when you're at the starting line, do you have any fears? And what I wanted to do was talk pre and post accident.
Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm. So there's got to be an adrenaline rush. You know you're going to do something that carries grave danger anyway. But what's your emotions or feelings like on the starting grid pre-accident and post-accident?
Well, when you're at the start, you're never thinking about anything to do with an accident whatsoever. It's no different than when you're shooting. Your concentration level is so high, and your mental imaging of what's going to take place in front of you is going on in your mind and being replayed over and over and over again. So there is no thought whatsoever about actually running off or getting involved in an accident. Post-accident is a whole other story. I mean, you start to replay what went wrong, what you did wrong, what you could have done differently, what caused the accident. You think about every component and break it down so as to better yourself that it doesn't happen again in the future.
Do you so let's get into the accident a little bit, because obviously you spoke to me about this and it's quite interesting. that you said you were simply just chasing and pushing too hard.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, well, we won the event for the past 4 or 5 years, I think it is, and in this particular event, we were obviously the favorites, and we had a comfortable lead after the first 2 stages, and unfortunately on the 3rd stage, which was the Friday night when the rally started, we did some stages in the night. There was a car that did a stage before us and left oil on the road, and unfortunately, I did notice the oil when the lights hit it, but I was apprehensive as to whether or not it existed before, because we had done that particular stage before in that night, and that I just didn't notice it before. So I didn't take any precautions because of it, and unfortunately, it put us into a spin. We got stuck on the side of the road, which cost us like 3 or 4 minutes in time, which was a lifetime in rallying. So as a result, when we restarted the Saturday morning, so the rally goes from Friday to Sunday. That was Friday night. When we restarted the Saturday morning, we were in last place. By the end of the day, Saturday, we were up to 2nd place, and we had a deficit of less than a minute to take 1st place. So Sunday morning, when the accident happened, was the very first stage, and obviously with a less than a minute to gain for the whole day, it's quite difficult. When we broke it down to the amount of seconds that we needed to gain on each stage for the rest of the day to be able to win the event, it would have been difficult to win. So our plan going into the day was to push extremely hard, go beyond the limits, obviously, and force the guy in 1st place to make a mistake. And in that case, then it would make our job much easier for the day.
Yeah.
And so this was the very first stage of the day. We put on different tires, softer tires, to try and gain any advantage we could on that stage to put some serious pressure on him, so he would force him into that mistake. And this particular corner it's a stage we had done before years previously, and it's a corner that we would normally take flat. So in our notes, we had it as flat. Everything should have gone the same way it usually does. Unfortunately, what we didn't take into consideration was the stage leading up to that corner had changed. So when we reached that corner, we were going significantly quicker than we were in the past, right? And at the same time, the side of the roads were overgrown with bush. And so where we would normally have put the front of the car to cut the corner, we were now way off of that line because of the overgrown bush on the corners. So quite a few factors there that caused it. But
would they, because when I was writing my notes earlier, I think that can happen to you in shooting, that you get to a course maybe and there's a 96 winning and you chase too hard. I know it's a different chase, but I think you can go too hard into a course and put too much pressure on yourself, even as a C or D shooter. And I think it's as I was writing, I was thinking, that's probably what happens to a lot of shooters, that they chase, instead of going out there and saying, right, the best score I can do or the fastest stage I can do is X. That's just going to have to be good enough. Instead of what you say, push the boundary too far. Mm-hmm. And where if he shot an 80 and you normally shoot a 79, you shoot a 64 because you crash.
Right. Same analogy. That's exactly what happened. And I agree with you. It's very similar to shooting in that sense. And it all has to do with mental pressure.
Yeah, and that's where we're going to go. That's where we're going to go with it now. In rally, do you just how do you get your notes? Do you do like a track drive, a track walk? How do you understand what you're going to be doing?
In rallying, we have what you call pace notes, which the driver and co-driver go out at normal road speed in the week or 2 weeks before the event on the physical stages that exist for the event, and they take their own notes as to the road conditions, the severity of the corners, the distances between corners, any conditions that they want in their notes. And everybody's notes are generally different. There are a lot of standardized ways of writing notes, but a lot of people also do it quite differently. So you couldn't really take up another person's set of notes and use them. So it has to be what you and your co-driver come up with and do for that event.
Because one thing that I'm noticing with the elite sports that we've had on yourself, the pilot, the skier, is that we don't take anywhere near enough pre-competition notes, and I'm even noticing that in my own performances. Like, I could get to a station and I could analyze the station probably far better than I do, even though I'm one of the best at it. Mm-hmm. Like, if I treated it with the severity of what happened to you, if you get a corner wrong, it could be life-changing.
Yes.
And I think I'm going to try this next week, is because, okay, if I miss a clay, it's not life-changing, nothing goes wrong, but I want to see how I react to a bit more pressure. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to.
The difference is the only difference with that is that with the clay shooting, you don't know the course that you're shooting it.
Yeah, correct.
That's a problem. With the rallying, obviously, we're able to view the course beforehand and make our.
But I could go to station 1, see the people shooting in front of me, note it, rehearse it, and then shoot it, which I don't. I walk up to it. When it's my turn, I rehearse it, and if I've got it wrong, it's wrong for 4 pairs because I haven't sort of ran it over in my head, which I could do. There's nothing stopping me. It's just laziness. Right. It's just laziness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why
you're absolutely right. I find myself in that problem when I'm shooting.
Yeah, and that's why
unfortunately, my favorite sport obviously is rallying, so that's what I take extremely seriously.
Yeah.
Shooting is, for me, I enjoy it so much, but at the same time, the camaraderie, a lot of my friends do it, very close friends. So it's more of the line with all the close friends going away to shoot or shooting these events, But then there's the competitive edge of yourself as a competitive person that during the event it takes over. But you have to have that discipline and that drive and urge to be better in the sport to do like what you're saying.
Yeah, because it's the one thing I could have done these 57 interviews all on shooting, and it would have been great. But the different sportsmen, and now including you, when I'm taking notes, I know it's been a good interview. Mm-hmm. And I've only took notes 3 times: the nutrition guy, last night, and tonight. Because I
don't see you writing.
No.
I want to try again.
So I just think I can learn so much about my I don't believe, and I don't mean this in a big-headed way, I don't believe I can get much better as a shooter. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to start outworking people.
Right.
Which is going to be pre-competition, and that's what I'm learning. That's what I'm learning from you guys. One thing. So my next question is: when you're driving, in a percentage of driver, co-driver, what's the percentage? Is it 50-50? Is it 90-10? How much would you rely on him?
Relying on him is that's 100. I mean, you have to trust everything he's saying. Imagine, even in the scenario of the accident, if you're coming down a long straightaway, you're doing, the car is topped out in speed, you're doing 190 kilometers per hour, and there's a blind corner in front of you, and he tells you, okay, it's a right 7 or right 6, which is basically a flat right in our form of notes. And you know that if you don't trust him fully where that is concerned, you're going to hesitate.
Yeah.
And if you hesitate at that speed, hesitating, you're losing a good chunk of a second.
That's my next question just here, look, is how much of it is blind? How much is beyond the edge where you're just going to do what he says and you're not going to see it happen? You're just going to do it.
The vast majority of it is that. I mean, there are obviously corners that you can see around. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're driving completely off of what you're hearing in your headsets. So, you know, no matter what he says, the whole forward thinking of my brain and of how I am driving the car itself is based on what he has just said to me in my ear. It's very little is on what's visually in front of me.
So you're sort
it's
of
based off of what I'm hearing.
It's like a blind control, isn't it? You're so much in control, yet you're so much out of control. It's weird.
It's a very fine line.
Yeah, and I can see that.
It is.
Do you think that so like, do your eyes adapt to speed? I know it sounds a dumb question, but like, if you work in the dark, you see better in the dark. Like when I drive quickly on a highway, things don't look good. Do they? Do you get used to your eyesight working at speed?
Yes, I do notice a difference with that. It's more like a tunnel vision. So everything in your peripheral, you're no longer even seeing. It's a blur. But right in front of you, that physical road in front of you is so focused, so in focus, and it's almost like slow motion, even though you're going so fast.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, whether you just went on, if you get to 100 miles an hour on a highway, you're like, this. Okay, I feel like I'm in control, but I can't see shit.
Yeah, so at 100 miles an hour on a highway, and you're not normally doing that, and you look down on the road, and there's something on the road, something very small, it's 6 inches. You're not even going to notice it.
No.
When we're doing it and we're at that speed, if there's something 2 inches on the road, we're seeing it.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah.
We're going to come
it
back
comes into focus immediately.
And where is your focus? How far out? How far out is your focus?
It's always usually focusing 2 instructions ahead of what he has already told me.
Really? So you're fucking far cleverer than you act.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, if he's called a corner that's right in front of me, that's coming up in front of me, my focus is not on that. That's basically automated from what I've heard in my ear. Yeah. My focus on what he's told me is beyond that, and there are a lot of reasons for that as well. How you take the corner in front of you depends on what's coming next, obviously. So it's like this corner would be exactly. It's just like you're shooting a pair and you shoot the first bird first, but you're shooting that first bird depending on where that second bird is. Yeah. So it's very similar in that you have to set it up, yeah. And obviously in this case, if you don't do it right, it's going to be bad.
So there's a question just came in from Geordie there. I'll answer it first, then you can answer it. How does it affect your normal driving on the main road? I can categorically assure you he drives the same. I have been with him on the road. I've been with him going through the Kingston. He drives like it's a rally. Now I'll let you answer.
Yeah, on the road it's I think with age it's slowed down quite a bit. I'm like a granny on the road now.
No, sir, I've been in that Jeep SVT thing. You drive like a loon.
No, that was when I was younger. On the road, it is quite a bit. well, especially in Kingston here now, the traffic is so bad, you don't have opportunity to do anything anyway. Yeah. You know, obviously when you get spirited and you're going to the country or to the north coast of the island and, you know, you get a nice piece of open road and stuff, then, you know, obviously you're driving, and my driving and driving style takes on and mimics what I'm doing in a rally, but obviously nowhere near that speed.
Yeah.
Safely.
Have you done any kind of visualization training?
Yes.
What does it help you with your shooting?
Yes, both. I started doing visualization training about 5 years ago when Khalil Azan, who's my shooting coach and mental coach, had recommended it to me to try it for rallying. So when he sat down with me initially and explained it to me, I realized quite a bit when you're clay shooting. I just don't use it to the same extent.
Yeah.
Are you hearing me? Or we got disconnected?
We lost you there. We've lost you. Just speak again now.
Yeah, are you hearing me now?
Yeah, that's better. So nobody heard that answer. You're gonna have to repeat. So talk through your visualization.
Okay. Yeah, you hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I started doing visualization about 4 years ago with Khalil Azan, who is my shooting coach, and he also does mental coaching as well. He recommended to me to use or try in my motorsports and rallying. And when he sat down with me and we started to go through it, we both realized it was something that I was already doing. I just didn't know that that's what it was called.
Yeah.
And he helped me to develop that. I've used it quite extensively with motorsports and rallying, as well as shooting. Obviously, my focus and passion is with rallying, so that's where I use it quite a bit. With the shooting, unfortunately, most times when I go to shoot, I'm just really having fun. So that mental focus and that visualization isn't what it needs to be in shooting, but it definitely needs to be there.
Next question. So a lot of people won't know this, is that Jeffrey is actually good friends with Usain Bolt. He took me to Usain's house to meet him to fulfill one of my dreams. Has Usain to you been a role model? Has he give you any tips or anything like that? You there, Jeffrey?
Yeah, you hear me? Yeah, let me move and see if I get a better connection. I'm not sure if it's me or your connection. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Usain is obviously a role model for quite a few people. Any athlete that wants to reach the pinnacle of their career and success, obviously, he would make an ideal role model in that case. I've been doing it quite a bit longer than he has started that, so I didn't look at him in that way. I had already found my level of success before that. But he's a good friend, but we never discuss competitively stuff like that, to be honest with you.
He was. I couldn't believe what an absolutely amazing guy he was, and it was quite easy to see the respect and how close you two were when we got there. But to see somebody and just to be so humble. It was unbelievable to see.
Yeah, yeah, he's a very humble guy.
Yeah.
It's surprising for somebody that's so successful, so famous around the entire world. You know, he is very humble for that.
Our Hoppy's asked a question. Can you please teach Khalil to drive?
Khalil won't even go in a car with me on the road.
Yeah, no man, that man drives slowly. Adrenaline. Let's talk about adrenaline. Oh, he's gone again. I don't know if it's me or you. Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, I lost you.
I want to talk about adrenaline because, I just want to talk to you about adrenaline. Because with rally being your passion and the speeds at which you're about to drive, and I would say that I get the same adrenaline when I shoot. How do you contain that adrenaline rush and still stay focused?
I think the adrenaline helps to keep me more focused. I don't think the adrenaline takes away from my focus. It rather helps me to focus more. I mean, when we're on an event and on a stage and we complete a stage, you're actually physically shaking from the amount of adrenaline that's pumping through you after that stage. But it does help me to focus quite a bit for what's coming next.
Yeah, I think it's quite important that there's a fine line between nervous energy and adrenaline. One's good and one's bad.
Yeah.
One can create fear, and fear is the unknown of you don't know what's coming, and that can create the hesitations in shooting, where if you've not got the adrenaline, it doesn't mean anything, and you're not going to concentrate.
Right. And very similar. What you're describing is basically the same.
Yeah, and I think it's important that a lot of people say, "Oh, I got nervous," and I have to say to them, "Okay, well, was it nervous or was it adrenaline? Because they're different, and you need one, and you need to box the other and get rid of it."
With the nerves, I notice the nerves personally leading up to the event.
Yeah.
But once that event starts, it's all adrenaline after that.
How do you train for rallying?
There are a lot of test sessions that you do, so to speak, with the team and the vehicle itself. So you go out depending on where you're doing an event and what the conditions are like. You mimic those conditions on a test day, for example, and you would take the car out along with the team and do some testing on a similar stage as to what you're going to be competing on. And you would make, obviously, suspension setting differences. The engineer that would be there would be doing some changes with engine data, engine parameters to.
You're quite hands-on though, aren't you, with the car?
Yes, I am, very much.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's interesting that you want to. I suppose when you're putting your life in something, you want to know what's going on. I guess I don't think I'd want to be so involved as well. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm standing over them all the time, unfortunately.
What a question there? What brake horsepower is the car?
It's the FIA, which is the federal, the world body that governs motorsports. They have a cap on the WRC cars that they must run a certain size inlet restrictor for the turbo, which would even out the playing field as far as horsepower is concerned. But it's not a lot of horsepower. It's about maybe realistically maybe 350 to 360 horsepower. But the torque is enormous. Yeah. That's where the real difference is. Yeah.
You got to
that oomph. Yeah.
And this doesn't mean absolutely nothing to me. Maybe have you driven a 6R 6R4 or a T16?
No, I haven't.
No idea what they are. That's just numbers and letters.
6R4 is a Metro. The T16, I believe, is the T16 is the Peugeot, the old Peugeot Group E car.
Okay. Interesting question here. Once the car is set up for a stage, is there adjustments you can make during the stage, or is it just you've made your choices and here we go?
The only adjustments you can make during the stage on the existing world cars is, well, when I say existing, the years that we run are with your brake bias, front to rear brakes. Once the stage is over, during the event, you can make, I can make, the crew in the car, the co-driver and the driver can make adjustments to suspension, different suspension settings as far as, the stiffness of that suspension, as well as tire pressures and the same thing, brake bias between front and rear of the car. But other than that, there's not much else that we can do that the engineer would have to do that.
Yeah.
And anything else.
Do you monitor your heart rate?
Racing, no.
What do you think it'd be?
I have done it before just to see out of curiosity, and it was extremely high.
I find these interviews amazing. They excite me more than the audience, I think, sometimes, because I think there's so much to learn. So
I mean, when I'm in a car and I'm doing a stage, the car that I drive is paddle shift. So it's a sequential gearbox with a paddle on the steering wheel. So to change gears, I'm merely flicking my fingers.
Yeah.
And obviously my feet are working the pedals, and then occasionally my hand would move from the steering wheel and pull the handbrake.
Yeah.
So physically, I'm not doing much as far as movements or thing. But at the end of a stage, if I'm blowing like I just ran a marathon.
Really?
Yeah. But that is all from heart rate.
You've seen me compete at a world championship. What I've learned in lockdown, and what I'm seriously learning again tonight, is that I don't work as hard as what you guys do before your event, and there is no reason I can't. And I'm learning that, and but I've always said that a champion is made when he can realize his weaknesses. And throughout this lockdown, I'm seeing what you do to race a car. Now, forget that you're racing and I'm shooting. All events for me, boxing, golf, rallying, are won before you even start.
Definitely correct.
And I believe that even in my own shooting, I'm getting there 60% prepared and then using ability to save the day.
Right.
Now, what I'm going to try and do is, if I can bring 60% to 80%, I've got to be better. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm learning over these things, and that's what I'm learning from you tonight. And, you're one of the most jovial, happy-go-lucky guys, and I would love now to see you compete and see the difference in you from the Jeffrey Panton that I go for dinner with to the Jeffrey Panton behind the wheel.
Yeah, the preparation before an event is excruciating. I mean, when we go to do an event, for example, outside the island of Jamaica, we go to whether the UK or the Barbados, wherever it may be, for a minimum of a week before, it's from 7 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. in the night of nothing but
I'm realizing that about my
preparation.
Do you burn a lot of calories during a stage?
I don't know. I wouldn't know how to check it.
What would it last? How long's the average stage?
The average stage in Barbados is quite short because the stages in Barbados mileage-wise is short, but everywhere else in the world is usually quite a bit longer. I mean, I've done a stage in the UK that's taken me 50 minutes to do.
So how do you hydrate at 180 kilometers an hour?
All right, so that's where when that person asks that question about calories, the temperature in our tropical climate, the temperature in that car exceeds 130 degrees. It's so hot in that car, to the point where we have to wear cool suits, which are undergarments under the racing suit, which have hoses fitted in them that ice water is being pumped through to keep the body core temperature down.
Really?
Yeah, if you're not wearing one, and even when you are wearing one, the fluid loss, the body fluid loss is enormous. So hydration is extremely important throughout the event.
Can you drink during the driving? Is there any like hoses or anything, or is it just?
No, there are setups that you can put in the car basically it's the same camelback knapsack, and it's just strapped to the back of the car seat and it's hosed to you. So that is and because the stages in Barbados are short, you know, as we're outside of a stage, we stop to our crew anyway. We have a mobile crew that's on the road at the end of every stage to make checks through the car, and they usually have a cooler full of rehydration drinks. So we're given a drink after every stage.
So your concentration span must be substantially stronger than most people's. It has to be. Most people, the average human being can only concentrate for 7 seconds before his mind wanders onto something else. So you don't have that luxury.
No, I am under full concentration from I start that event on a day in the morning till I complete that event on the evening. There is the occasional breaks that you have between during that day, so you may have a longer than usual service halt, which may be half an hour to an hour, where you're able to then relax and knock on. But once you're in the car driving, whether it be between stages or on stages, is complete concentration.
And that's what I'm saying. Like at a shooting ground, you concentrate for 4 pairs, and then you just come down. Mm-hmm. You walk to the next station, and you go up. You don't have that luxury. You've got to be fully loaded until you cross that finish line. Now that can't be something that you're born with. That's got to be learned. You've got to learn.
It usually comes with the level of competition. So if we're doing an event and we have a comfortable lead, and it's just a matter of maintaining that, then we're able to relax between stages, and that level of concentration falls. But if we're doing an event, which I've done in the past, where after 3 days, it's only 4 seconds that separates the first 4 guys, and that's after 3-4 days of driving. That's so close. I mean, every stage it's less than it's a millisecond that's separating us on each stage. That level of concentration is so high that in that particular event, I think it was in 2014, at the end of the event, I was just completely exhausted and broken.
It's interesting, isn't it? What do you have the mental capability and the mental strength? I know you had the crash, that's done and dusted, but do you have, or does the co-driver realize that we're actually pushing too hard here, we've got to rein in?
Yes. In particular, my co-driver does recognize that, yes.
Because that's got to be it's got to be quite easy, hasn't it, to go too hard? It's got to be easy to just say, stop, the pedal's on the floor, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a prime example, when I'm on a stage and I make a mistake that has cost me some time, which is, it's inevitable you're going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
So I'll make a mistake that I know has cost me a second or two right there. He was recognize the difference in how I'm driving after that mistake, because I start to overdrive or I start to push too hard to try and compensate for that mistake. And he's able at that point to, over the headset say, look, hey, you need to dial it back a little. You're pushing way too hard.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to take a serious mental strength to say, I've got to go as fast as I can, but I still got to finish.
Yeah.
You got to.
He's checked me quite a few times.
when the course is flowing, when the stage is flowing, do you go into a place in the mind that sometimes can feel almost surreal, almost like an out of body, like you're looking at it from a third party?
Yeah, there is no other feeling like that in the world, really. It's a rhythm that you get into. There's this particular stage in Jamaica called Alligator Pond, which is it's nothing but complete. It's corner after corner. It's literally, as you take a corner, there's another corner, another corner, another corner, and it's like that you're doing that for about 15 minutes straight. And when I do a stage like that, and my rhythm is absolutely perfect. So you're braking, you're cornering, your acceleration, everything is going perfect. It's as you say, it's like it's like an out of body experience. It's like you're watching yourself do it, and you cannot make a mistake. It's just everything you're doing is just absolutely spot on.
What comparatives do you do? What can you relate between your two hobbies? Obviously, one's serious and one's fun. What run parallel? Visualization, we know, runs parallel. What else? What else happens?
Visualization is the biggest key that runs parallel, without a doubt. The mental visualization of what you're seeing, of what's to come, and what you're doing, is absolutely the same between both. No different whatsoever. Obviously you have smaller similarities, like your preparation of your equipment before an event, which is the shotgun compared to the car. Stuff like that is also comparative as well. Obviously not as in depth, but
one thing that I've learned throughout all of my sports is that for every action, there's a reaction. And I wrote this down, and it sounds stupid. And I'm going to feel stupid saying it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So if you spend a lot of time in the dark, when you go into the light, your eyes change. Mm-hmm. And vice versa. Everything that you do in a rally car is flat out, 100%, and your tunnel vision. Do you think that has when you step onto a shooting ground scenario, when it's the light to the dark, it's the fast to the slow, do you think it's a weakness where you can jump out ahead, your eyes move too fast, or not?
Yeah, the possibility exists that it could be a weakness for you if you are unable to control that.
If you're at 100 miles an hour and then the clay's at 20, your eyes could shift around and leave the clay behind almost, because you're like your tunnel vision. You're here with shooting. You need to be here,
right?
I wrote this, and it sounded stupid when I was writing it. It was like, if you take a guy that's working in a pit mine all day, when he comes out, it hurts.
Right.
And I just wondered if there was any weakness that you can train your eyes to be one thing, but can you then the next day ask them to do something else?
I'm sure it would take quite a bit of practice.
Yeah, I think it would. I do think it would. But I also think you'd probably have the possibility to see the clay clearer than most. Because you've got that isolated tunnel focus that most people wouldn't have. When you concentrate on something, you concentrate on it. When we concentrate on it, we look everywhere else as well.
Right. Yeah. If I was at your level, then I would say yes. But at my level, unfortunately, no. I'm looking all over the place.
There was a question earlier on. What's the best or your favourite rally car, or is there a rally car that you haven't driven that you would like to?
My favourite rally car, hands down, has been the car that I crashed in, which was the WRC Focus. That car was just amazing in every way. For this new car to step into those shoes is going to be very difficult. for me. That car was absolutely, I mean, perfect. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, every other rally car I've been in my life, every single other one I've said, at the end of a stage, I said, oh, this needs some more power. You know, that felt slow. But that car, never had a complaint, ever.
What? Who were your role models in rallying? Who did you look up to?
Oh, Colin McRae, without a doubt. Colin McRae was the king of it all. He still is. Yeah, he still is. He came to Jamaica with his brother Alistair and did an event here with us. Well, Alistair did the event. He came along. So I've met him before. And then I in 1996, 96 and 97, I went and did the, I think it was 96 and 97, I went and did the RAC rally at that time, which was WRC GB.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I saw him again when we were there and we were speaking and stuff. You know, he was a great guy.
It's always nice to meet your idols, and like I say, you were kind enough to arrange for me to meet mine. Dude, we've been chatting for an hour already.
Wow.
So if there's that's all of my questions. I mean, that's been truly insightful for me, and it's certainly, when I set out to do this, I set out to educate others, and some of these have been educating me. Like I say, I really do believe that my ability to move a shotgun has got me out of trouble when I could have worked and not had to get out of trouble. And
exactly,
that's something that I'm going to take from this interview and take forward and just try to see if I can certainly prepare better. One last question, actually. When you step into you say there's no fear on the touchline, on the start line of a rally. Do you get any fear when you're in the cage when you call pull? No. Same thing. It's just just call him pull and away you go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it's at if I'm at a level in that competition or that round of clay shooting that I'm doing extremely well, then there is some tinge of fear when you step into the next box, the next cage. But for the most part, no.
Interesting. It's interesting how you've managed to. Your mental game must be seriously strong to. And I like if somebody said to me like you're going to go into a car with you, my heart rate and adrenaline, I'd look forward to it, but I'd be shitting myself too, even though I know how good you are. And to have that mental capacity to close that box of fear, that's huge in any sport. That's when champions are made, that they can shut that down and perform.
Yeah, it's when you step out of your box and you go into something else that you've never done. That's when you have that fear. When it's something that you do day in and day out, then you know that fear doesn't exist. I mean, I give you a prime example. A good friend of mine is the ex-European rally champion and French champion, Simon John Josephs. And I did an event with him 2 years ago in Martinique. And, you know, with the pre-event testing, we had set up a test and he was in his car and I was in mine. And throughout the day while we were testing, he said, you know, I said, can I come and do a run with you in your car? I'll sit with you as a co-driver. You know, so I was a bit optimistic that I'm going to go sit in this car with no steering wheel in front of me. That was, you know, it's the first time I've stepped into a rally car and I had fear.
Really?
Because I wasn't the one driving, and you know, although I have all the confidence in his ability, it's just not being in control at that speed. And seeing what's going on, it's so much different in all the seat. I don't know how a co-driver does it.
You know, we've got 1 minute 42 seconds. We've got one question. What's the come down after an event? How do you feel when you cross the line? Is there a come down stage?
Yes. As I mentioned before, it all depends on how competitive that event was, how close it was. You know, I keep going back to this particular event, 2014, because it's the most significant. As we went through the finish line of the very last stage, we had no idea whether we had won the event or not, because the next person to us was within 2 seconds of us. So that could have very easily been gotten on that stage. So we had to wait at the end of that stage till the other cars, the top 4 other cars came through that we could see their times. And as I said, you were so concentrating so much for 3 days, and every stage was a 0.2 second, a 0.1 second difference. And you were swapping back and forth. That when those 4 cars came in and we got their times, I just completely broke down.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, everything. It was like a crash from that adrenaline, that concentration that you have been pushing for 3 days straight. At the very end, I was no use for anybody. I couldn't go and celebrate, nothing.
I was like that when I won my first world championship. I just flooded. I just broke down. But this is going to cut us both off in 11 seconds. Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem, Ben.